Going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Ashes of Creation video. Today I wanted to dive deep onto a particular class, and today that will be the Ranger. The Rangers are pretty interesting, very cool looking class. This video is actually from just a couple of weeks ago when Intrepid did a Ranger update and gave us more information. As you can see here, Steven is doing the Snipe ability. Snipe requires a bow, and the numbers are subject to change, so I will not discuss them, but it charges a powerful ranged attack, dealing large damage after charging for 3 seconds, deals 300% physical damage. And if you get a heart-seeking snipe upgrade on it, Snipe has a 30% increased chance to critically hit against enemies beyond 20 meters. So when you're also in action combat mode, the ability can be aimed and fired blindly, and it allows you to spin while charging to adjust the targeting. The skill tree here for the hunter, I'm going to keep saying hunter, it's a ranger, actually is pretty massive here. You can see just all the different options that you have to choose from. And I will go into each skill and ability. The majority of the ranger skill tree will likely be ranged, but there will be options to incorporate melee aspects. Some abilities require a bow to be equipped. Instead of a minimum range requirement, as you would see in such like WoW, such as like a thundering shot, currently there will be variable effects based on what you are ranged to the target. And the majority of the ranger abilities allow for movement while casting, with their player agency being extremely important to them, which I believe is good. So there's only going to be a few abilities that really restrict you to not moving while casting. Alrighty, I'm going to introduce you guys to each skill and show you a graphic of each. Airstrike. You leap a great distance forward into the air while firing 3 projectiles in a line along the path, each dealing area damage and rooting targets hit for 3 seconds. The root effect is nature-based. Barrage. Fires a continual barrage of arrows at your target for 1.5 seconds, dealing 12% physical damage per arrow. Bear Trap. Spawn a trap at a target location which arms after 1 second. When an enemy triggers the trap, they take damage and become rooted for 2 seconds. Call of the Wild. Remove all movement impairing effects and increase movement speed by 20% for 8 seconds. Snares and roots effect applied to the caster are ignored. So you become immune to CC while you have Call of the Wild active. Camouflage. Grants stealth at a distance. At mid and short range, the ranger is revealed. So, they will have a camo ability. Not a full stealth, but an ability, which is pretty cool. Disengage. Delivers a quick kick backflipping in the opposite directions. Enemies hit are snared for 4 seconds. I'm definitely getting, a lot of WoW Hunter vibes, which is completely understandable and fair. When you're making a hunter class, you will see similarities between video games, and that seems like the same kind of disengage ability. Headshot. It deals 175% physical damage to a target enemy. Hunt of the Bear. Call forth the spirit of the bear, imbuing yourself with increased physical mitigation. Hunt of the Raven. Call forth the spirit of the raven, imbuing yourself with increased physical penetration. Hunt of the Tiger. Call forth the spirit of the tiger, imbuing yourself with 10% increased crit damage. Imbue ammo barbed. Imbues your ammunition with barbed thorns. Enemies hit by your bow attacks suffer bleeding status effect, dealing damage over time. Each application applies 3 seconds of duration to the target, up to a maximum of 30 seconds or 10 charges. Imbue ammo concussive. Imbues your ammunition with concussive force. Enemies hit by your bow attacks suffer 10 stacks of staggered, and increases trip duration when applied, and lowering their accuracy and their invasion stats per stack. So that'll be very good to do to any kind of tank character or anyone trying to get away from you. You hit them with that, making them less likely to evade and being able to finish them off. Imbue ammo weighted. Imbues your ammunition with weight. Enemies hit by your bow attacks suffer snared status effect, reducing their movement speed by 50%, and each application applies 3 seconds of duration to the target, maximum of 12 seconds, 10 charges. Obviously, these numbers are subject to change as well, like I've said many times, but being able to root someone for a total of 12 seconds slow definitely seems kind of ridiculous. So I can almost guarantee that will be changed. Lightning Reload grants a charge of Lightning Reload, allowing you to fire one ability shot for free, ignoring its cooldown and other costs. So it's a free little clear casting kind of ability. Bam, you can instant bam pop it for free and ignoring its cooldown. So that's a very kind of OP ability. So the cooldown on that as well will have to be quite substantial, probably in the 2-minute plus range. Now here are the marks of the bear. I had previously discussed the hunts of the bear, which are actually different than the marks. So mark of the bear is marking the target, reducing their mitigation by 25%. Mark of the raven. It marks the target, triggering bonus damage every time the target is hit. The lower the health is on the target, the higher the damage. So you can use that in sort of a execute kind of a phase. Hit them with that, you'll start doing a lot of damage. Mark of the tiger. It increases your crit chance versus the target by 50%. So that would be something I would kind of open up with. Just instantly get that nice 50% crit chance and just start hurting them real bad, and then switch over to the raven when you get them lower health and start really finishing them off. So you can already see they're kind of starting to build your rotation as you learn it here. Piercing shot. Fires a projectile that travels in a straight line, piercing through and damaging all enemies in its path. Raining death. Fires a dense rain of arrows 20 meters ahead, dealing high damage, and it deals more damage the more the distant the target is. So with this one, based on your range, it'll just do more or less damage, so you're going to want people to be about 20 meters or more in front of you when you hit that. Scatter shot. Fires a spread of projectiles dealing physical damage to every enemy within a 20-meter cone in front of the caster. Again, very similar to the WoW style, but WoW style is more of a CC. This is actually more like a multi-shot technique. Looks pretty neat. Snipe. We discussed this one a little earlier when looking at the talent tree. It charges a powerful ranged attack and deals large damage after charging for 3 seconds. Thundering shot. Fires a lightning-infused projectile at your target, dealing 200% of your physical power as lightning damage. So that's going to be sort of an elemental ability, which is pretty neat. Vine Field. Summons 3 fields of grabbing vines, one at the target location every half a second, and targets hit or damaged for 10% physical and snared for 3 seconds. And their movement speed is reduced by 40%. Targets that have more than 10 seconds of snare duration are rooted. So that's, again, working with their status effects. Applying snares ends up getting you rooted. A very interesting dynamic that they have going on. The effect can only be triggered once per target. Now when we talk about ranger augments, hunts will be the ranger school of augmentation, and hunts do not interact with pets, and they're not to be confused with hunt skills. They're just toggleable self-buffs applied by the ranger. So when I talked about the hunt of the bear, raven, and tiger earlier, those are essentially just a buff that you place on yourself. Ranged weapons. A character may be able to equip 2 weapons and also wear a ranged weapon on their back. Characters performing ranged abilities will switch to the ranged weapon, and then they can switch back to a melee or shield after they do so. There will be a setting to determine if the ranged weapon or main hand offhand is the primary weapon of use. So essentially you can change what you want your default weapon to be, if you want it to be the ranged or if you wanted to switch to melee. Rangers do not have a minimum distance requirement for using their ranged weapons. Previously they were intending on them having a minimum range distance. And instead of the minimum range requirement, they will have to use such skills at variable distances. And also some skills do require the bow to be equipped. The lists of ranged weapons are actually bows, staves, and wands. Alrighty, that was all of the skills and abilities for the ranger archetype. It looks like a very interesting class. I'm quite excited to try it out. If I end up not making a tank, I probably will make a ranger. They look very interesting, very neat. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. I appreciate all your guys' feedback. And if you've made it all the way into the video, go ahead and leave a comment saying that what class you're excited to play in Ashes of Creation. Alrighty, thank you guys. Have a good one. Peace.